Let me say something that's going to save you months of frustration, maybe years, and it's not what you've been told. The biggest mistake new closers make isn't confidence, it isn't tonality, it isn't objections. It's something far more basic than that. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Most people are trying to perform their way into a deal when they should be diagnosing their way into one. Closing isn't a stage, it's not a monologue, it's not you standing there with your chest out running lines like you're auditioning for the role of top sales guy. That's not sales, that's karaoke, and the prospect can hear the backing track. I was walking through Canary Wharf the other day. Glass towers, sharp suits, people moving fast like urgency is part of the uniform. Everyone looks important, everyone looks busy. And it hit me, half the people in those buildings are probably selling something right now. And most of them are doing it the exact same way. They're talking, explaining, convincing, pitching, like if they just stack enough words on top of each other, eventually one of them will land hard enough to knock a decision loose. That's not how decisions work. And deep down, you already know that. Here's the truth nobody puts in a £700 course. People don't want to be persuaded, they want to be understood. And persuasion without understanding is just noise. Loud, impressive noise, but still noise. Think about it like this. If your car starts making a strange noise, you don't want a mechanic who says, yeah, I've seen this before, here's the fix. You want the one who asks questions. When did it start? What does it sound like? Does it happen when you turn or when you brake? Because that mechanic isn't guessing, he's diagnosing. And new closers don't diagnose, they prescribe, immediately. A prospect says, yeah, we're struggling with leads. And the closer jumps in with, perfect, our system fixes that. Slow down. That's like a doctor hearing the word headache and handing you pills before checking your sleep, your stress, or your habits. Same symptom, different cause, different solution. Skip the diagnosis and you're just guessing. And guessing is expensive in sales. Here's what happens on most calls. The closer gets on with the script printed out, maybe highlighted, maybe treated like sacred text. They're not listening, they're waiting. Waiting for their turn to sound impressive. The prospect is talking and the closer is rehearsing. That's not a conversation, that's two monologues colliding. The real closer is different. They're quiet, not because they're unsure, but because they're collecting data. They listen the way a pilot listens mid-flight. Because when you're 10,000 feet in the air, you don't ignore strange noises, you pay attention. Closing isn't about having the right words. It's about asking the right questions in the right order and staying quiet long enough for the truth to surface. The amateur wants to sound smart, the professional wants to understand the problem. And that difference, that's where everything changes. Here's the part nobody prepares you for. London doesn't reward effort, it rewards accuracy. You can work hard, practice your pitch voice, memorize every objection response ever written like you're auditioning for Shakespeare, and still get nowhere. Because effort without direction is just motion. And motion feels productive right up until you realize you haven't moved. It's like running on a treadmill. You're sweating, you're exhausted, your heart rate's up, and it feels like progress. But you're still in the same place. Sales is full of people sprinting nowhere. I used to see it every morning on the tube. 9 a.m., platforms packed, everyone standing shoulder to shoulder, pretending not to notice each other. Headphones in, eyes down, scrolling. Watching someone tell them they're one technique away from freedom. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Freedom doesn't come from techniques. It comes from leverage. And leverage comes from understanding people better than they understand themselves. That's why diagnosis matters so much. Because when you diagnose properly, you're no longer chasing the deal. The deal starts moving toward you. You start pushing uphill. Think about buying property in this city. You don't walk in, see nice lighting and a clean kitchen, and immediately make an offer. You ask questions. When was it last surveyed? What's the service charge? How long has it been on the market? Because you're not buying the appearance. You're buying the reality. Sales works the same way. But this is where new closers panic. They think if they don't jump in quickly, they'll lose control of the call. So they rush. They interrupt. They answer questions that haven't even been fully asked yet. That's not control. That's fear wearing a suit. Real control feels calm. It feels slow, because you know where the conversation is going, even if the prospect doesn't yet. You're not reacting, you're leading. Control doesn't mean dominating the call. It means guiding it. Like a doctor with a patient. You don't ask random questions. You ask them in a sequence that reveals something important. New closers hear that, and turn it into a checklist. How long has this been a problem? What's your budget? Who's the decision maker? That's not diagnosis. That's interrogation. Diagnosis feels like curiosity. It feels like genuine interest. It sounds like, help me understand this properly. And the moment someone feels examined instead of understood, they shut down. Here's the real shift. Stop asking questions to qualify people out. Start asking questions to help them think in. That's where momentum starts. Instead of asking, what's your biggest challenge? Try asking, walk me through a typical day. One gives you a headline. The other gives you context. And context is where deals are decided, because once you understand the context, you stop sounding generic. You stop pitching. You start reflecting. You start saying things like, based on what you told me. And when someone hears their own situation accurately described back to them, something shifts. They lean in. Because now it's not a sales call. It's a conversation that actually matters. Here's where most closers quietly sabotage themselves. They think diagnosis is the finish line. So the call turns into a nice conversation. Everyone feels heard. Everyone feels understood. And nothing moves. Because understanding without direction is just comfort. And comfort doesn't create decisions. It creates delays. This is the part people avoid talking about. Control. Not control like pressure. Not control like manipulation. Control like leadership. Control like knowing where the conversation needs to go and calmly taking it there. Think about being lost in a city you don't know. If you stop someone and ask for directions, you don't want them to shrug and say, well, where do you think you should go? You want clarity. You want step-by-step guidance. That's what control actually feels like. It's calming. It lowers resistance instead of raising it. Most new closers are scared of that responsibility. So they sit back and let the prospect drive. They let the conversation wander. They wait for buying signals. And then the call ends with, yeah, let me think about it. That's not a stall. That's confusion. And confusion is your responsibility. The prospect didn't book a call because they wanted another opinion. They booked because they're stuck. They want help seeing the next step. Imagine going to a GP with chest pain. You explain everything, and the doctor says, so, what would you like to do? You'd leave. Not because they were rude, but because they didn't lead. Sales works the same way. Once you've diagnosed the problem properly, your job is to guide the decision. Not aggressively, naturally. You connect the dots they already gave you. You say, based on what you told me, and you show them the path forward. That's when the call shifts. Because now it's specific. And here's the part most people miss. If the diagnosis is real, the close doesn't feel like a close. It feels like the next logical step. No tension, no pressure. You still ask for the decision. You still talk about next steps. But you're not convincing, you're confirming. You're not dragging them forward. You're walking beside them. That's why aggressive closers burn out. They're dragging people uphill. Real closers are different. They show people the downhill path they didn't realize was there. And once someone sees it, they move on their own. This is why scripts eventually break. Not because they're useless, but because they freeze you inside someone else's words. They stop you from responding to the moment, from hearing what's actually being said. People aren't templates, they're stories. And if you don't let them tell theirs, you'll never know where to lead them. I learned this the hard way. Homeless shelter in East London, thin walls, you could hear every call and every moan. My mate had every script memorized. Perfect pacing, perfect tonality, perfect objections. And average results, month after month, because he was talking at people, not with them. He was performing, not listening. I stopped trying to be impressive and started trying to be useful. That's when things changed. Not overnight, but consistently, because usefulness compounds. And once you get that, you can't go back. Here's what I want you to understand before you go back to your next call. This isn't just about sales. It's about how you show up in conversations that actually matter. Because the way you sell is usually the way you listen everywhere else. Most people treat skills like accessories, something to put on, something to show off. But real skills aren't fashion. They're escape vehicles. They change where you can go, what rooms you're allowed into, and how people respond when you speak. And closing, when it's done properly, is one of those skills. Not because it makes you persuasive, but because it makes you precise. When you know how to listen, how to ask the right questions, and how to guide someone toward a clear decision, you stop chasing outcomes. You start creating clarity. And clarity is rare. That's why this skill works everywhere. In business, in relationships, in negotiations, in leadership. Anywhere decisions are made, this matters. Because most people don't need more information. They need structure. The internet will keep arguing about the best scripts, the best closes, the best techniques. Let them. While they debate tactics, you'll be building understanding. While they chase lines, you'll be asking better questions. While they're trying to sound impressive, you'll be trying to be useful. And that difference compounds. That's the difference between struggling for months and getting traction early. Between feeling busy and getting results. Between chasing deals and attracting them. There's no perfect script for this, no magic phrase that works every time. There's just the skill of understanding people well enough to help them make good decisions. And once you develop that skill, it follows you. From call to call, from deal to deal, from conversation to conversation. It becomes part of how you think, part of how you speak. So stop trying to perform. Stop trying to convince. Start listening like someone who actually cares about solving the right problem. Because the closer who wins isn't the loudest. It's the one who understands. And once you become that person, you don't chase deals anymore. They come to you.